Welcome to TOSJOHN Consulting live streaming channel. Thank you for staying true to us on this YouTube channel. We appreciate you. And please, if this is your first time of connecting to our YouTube channel, please make sure you subscribe. So like we have promised on this YouTube channel, we are always ensuring we are showing up and we are giving you all the necessary business updates that are very important for your business to stay compliant and to avoid issues. So we'll start with this story. It's a practical story for one of the businesses in Nigeria. So they've registered, for their taxes. They were been onboarded on e-tax platform, that's Tax Pro Max, since 2024. But they weren't filing. They were not filing. They just left it there. And you know that based on the law, any business that have been registered, the tax authority will tell you that based on the law, that you are given 18 months or the first 6 months after incorporation to do your first filing. And then, of course, we have the monthly filing and remittances. We have the PAYE. So we have all these necessary taxes that every business must comply with. So the business was registered for tax, onboarded on the Tax Pro Max, but they weren't filing. They were not filing for their taxes. And what will happen next? The tax authority, they have to slam them. They slam them with penalty, because when they now realize, when they came back, to now say want to start filing in 2026, they've now seen penalty. On their tax platform, they've started seeing penalty. And that penalty was not a small penalty. It was huge. That penalty was huge. They slammed them. So probably that business now fall within the threshold of not to pay for tax. They are within the threshold not to pay for tax. But for the fact that they are not filing for the tax as at, and there will be penalty. This is law. So any registered business in Nigeria, after 18 months of incorporation, you must file for your CAC. That's Corporate Affairs Commission. And for tax, the first 6 months after your accounting year end, you must also file for your company income tax if you are a registered company. And then for the value added tax, withholding tax, you must also file all those obligations. If you don't file, then there will be penalty. So there will be penalty. So this morning we are bringing you, of course, like our usual practice, we are ensuring that we are always showing up on this channel. So please, if this is your first time of connecting to our YouTube channel, please make sure you subscribe. So we are bringing you tax obligations and, of course, some other statutory obligations for February 2026. And all these tax obligations, statutory obligations, they are reoccurrence. They are ongoing. So if you see for this month of February, of course, it translates to the month of March and on and on and on like that. So for every business to stay compliant to all their statutory obligations, tax obligations, they must ensure that they are filing on a regular basis. So that is why we are ensuring we are showing up here. So today, this 3rd of February 2026, the tax obligation, statutory obligations from your payroll after you have paid your salary, the obligations that you need to ensure to stay compliant in 2026 to avoid penalty. And we've said it, that penalties are now more stricter. Penalties are now more stricter, more higher than ever before. Like one of our friends and clients, called us yesterday. Okay, it was, of course, we have that streaming now. It has dropped on our YouTube channel. We streamed it yesterday for tax secrets for the Nigerian in the diasporas. What their tax will look like. What are their tax obligations. So we streamed it live yesterday. It's on our YouTube channel. Other people will also need this information. All our clients, prospective, existing clients, they will need all this information. So as we are getting the feedback, we're also bringing the information to a wider audience, to a wider coverage on this YouTube channel. So that's why we are ensuring that on every month, we are bringing all the obligations for tax, for statutory obligations that you must comply with. So let's join it together in this morning live stream as we give you the obligations for February 2026 for businesses. The first one, as a business, of course, we all know that there is annual return filing. There's what we call annual return filing, PAYE annual return filing for organization, for companies. So if you have deducted your PAYE from your staff, you are paying on a monthly basis. So at the end of the year, the tax authority says that you must file those returns, and the deadline is already over. That's 31st of January 2026. So they've given a 1 week grace for this, for business to comply. So the new deadline now is 7th of February 2026. So today is 4, so just 4 days for the deadline to be over. The new grace to file your company PAYE annual return filing for 2025. And then for CAC is also on as well for businesses to stay compliant. So the first, compliant for business is what we call PAYE, pay as you earn. So if you've deducted tax from your employee, and of course we will say this, if your employee is earning 70,000 and below, which is the new minimum wage, they are exempted from PAYE. They are exempted. So don't deduct tax from there. So we are only deducting tax from those that are earning 70,000 and above, 70,001 and above. So those are the people you are deducting tax from. And when you deduct the tax, of course, you must have done your payroll. You must have done all the necessary deductions. Your rent relief allowance is there. You must apply it. And then some other statutory, obligations, remittances that will be given you in this live streaming. So the first is pay as you earn, which is from the employees. So it's the employers of every organization that will deduct this pay as you earn, depending on your agreement with the employee. Some organization, they are the one that pay the tax on behalf of their employee. They don't deduct from the staff payments. They don't. While some other organization, they only pay gross. So it is the employee that will be responsible for their own pay as you earn. So depending on the agreements you have, but PAYE must still be remitted. So the PAYE remittance is done 10th of the following months. For example, you've done your deductions of PAYE in your salary for January. So this is February now. By 10th of February, that's the deadline to remit the pay as you earn. And you must remit it. So PAYE taxes withheld from employees' salaries in January 2026 must be remitted to the relevant tax authority. And basically, the pay as you earn is done to the State Internal Revenue Service of the place that the employee is residing. The state that the employee is residing, that is where the pay as you earn will be remitted to, and not where the organization is situated or located. No, it is where the employee is residing, the state, that is where the pay as you earn will be remitted. And it is 10th of the following month after the deduction of the tax. So that is the first one. So in February 2026, your pay as you earn remittance, you must start doing it. It is very important. It is very, and this is the first PAYE remittance in 2026, because the first month is January, so which has ended already. So the remittance of 1st of January will be done in February 2026, and this is the first PAYE. So for you to start doing the right thing, right, for 2026, this is the starting point now that you must ensure. So for you to do this, you must ensure correct deduction from payroll. Correct deduction. Maybe your HR, right, have done the payroll. Then maybe the accountant, right, will review. And of course, maybe the manager or whoever is in charge, they will review. So you must ensure correct deduction, which is very important. Then another thing is you must remit the amount on or before the statutory due date. This is very important. Then you must keep payroll records and schedule for electronic filing. You must be keeping it. You must have a folder, either on the Google Drive or in your Excel or on your any drive. You must be filing those payroll on a monthly basis. So here are the penalties if you don't comply to the PAYE remittance. So late remittance attracts 10% penalty and interest on the monetary policy rate. That's the MPR. If you fail to remit, there will be a penalty of 10%, and then there will be an interest on it as well, on the monetary policy rate. And failure to deduct can trigger heavier administrative penalties. You know that in this Nigerian Tax Act now, the penalties are now more heavier. So in order to avoid the penalties, you must ensure you file on a regular basis. So if this is your first time of connecting to our YouTube channel, please make sure you subscribe. And if you have any questions as regards this live streaming, you can put in the comment section and we will answer you. The second remittance or filing you must ensure is value added tax. And we will break this one down as well. For value added tax, we all know that it is done on the payment for goods and services. Goods that are vatable. Vatable goods and services, you apply VAT on it. But thanks to the Nigerian Tax Act 2025, that says that small company that their turnover is 100 million and below are exempted from charging VAT on their invoice. And this is a big relief for small companies that their turnover is 100 million and below. It is a big relief for them. It's a big relief for them. So what they must now ensure is to be filing. If you are not charging for VAT, but then you will still have to file on your e-tax platform. That is why every business must register for tax. Even if you are within the threshold, you must still register for tax. Like the last week of January, the State Internal Revenue Service, like LIRS, they have been, bringing out circular about penalties if you fail to comply. And some clients have been reaching out to us to ensure that they stay compliant and avoid all these penalties. So value added tax is on the vatable goods and services. So small companies are exempted. Only professional services are not part of these small companies. If you are a professional service company or firm, you are not part of the small company. You must still do your VAT normal, charge your withholding tax, charge all the necessary tax on your invoices. But if you are not a professional service company, right, you will enjoy this small company threshold of 100 million, and you may not need to charge VAT on your invoice, but then you must register for tax and you must also file for VAT as well. You must file all the necessary taxes. So VAT returns and payments for January 2026 must be filed and paid by 21st of this month. So if you have charged VAT in January, you must pay on or before 21st of February 2026. And if there are no filers, if there are no VAT to be remitted, you must also file as well. So filing is different from payments. Filing means that you are presenting what you have and then you file it. Payment means that you have presented what you have and this is what you have to pay. Then you file and then you make payments. So that is it. So what you must do for this value added tax is this. One, prepare monthly VAT returns. You must have a monthly VAT returns, your output VAT minus your allowable input VAT. So we have the video of value added tax, how to charge value added tax, make payment, file and every necessary thing on our YouTube channel. You can watch it. It's very important. So you must file on the Nigerian Revenue Service Portal, which we formerly known as FIRS. So that is where the tax will be remitted to, and you must do that before the deadline. Before the deadline, that's 21st of this February 2026. So returns filing late or incorrect, right? If you file incorrect, if you fail to file at the appropriate time, there is penalty for it, and the late penalty is 10%. 10% penalty plus interest on the monetary policy rate, and this will be huge. Like the story we told you before we started, a company registered for tax on board on the e-tax platform and was not filing for the tax, and they wanted to now start filing in this 2026, and they've seen penalties on the e-tax platform and they have to pay it because they are supposed to have been filing on a monthly basis before now. So moving on, the next one is withholding tax. There's what we call withholding tax, and withholding tax is a tax that is deducted from the source. Tax that is deducted from the source before you make the final payment. So withholding deducted on qualifying payments like professional fee, on rent, on contract must be remitted by 21st of the following month as well. So we have for states and we have for federal. So if you are dealing with an individual business, you remit to the states. But if you are dealing with corporate, you remit to the Nigerian Revenue Service. So this is how it works. So for individual uncorporated entities, they remit to the relevant state revenue service by 30th of this month. So if you have deducted withholding from an incorporated entity like individual, like business name registered business, right, you must remit to the state internal revenue service by the end of this month, on or before the end of this month. This is very important. Then what is the penalty? You have late remittance attract penalty plus interest. There are penalties and interest if you fail to remit. So for you to avoid all these penalties and interest, you must remit on a regular basis. Then we have our annual employees PAYE returns, which we have said that you must file your annual returns for 2025, and the state internal revenue service like LIRS have given another week grace. So the next deadline is 7th of February 2026. So if you have not filed, there's still a grace for you to file, and you can reach out to us for your filing. We are your business growth support partner. Let's ensure that you file on a regular basis and keep supporting you in your business journey. So for these PAYE returns, it often remains a compliance focus in February, of course, because there have been another week grace to wrap up the outstanding documentations or payment associated with the filing, definitely. So the next one is preparation for 2026 year-end obligations. you have to start preparing for that. It is very important. Even if not due in February, good practice in February 2026 includes you to update your accounting system to reflect the new compliance requirements under the Nigerian Tax Act 2025, like the e-filing, the registration for taxes, the schedules, the accurate VAT classifications, and every document that you must prepare and then file accordingly. So implementing the e-invoicing, right? The Nigerian Revenue Service have introduced e-invoicing. So you need to comply with that. For VAT reporting processes, if applicable, of course, businesses, they are applicable, all these are applicable to them. Maintaining accurate transition record is very important and scheduled to support monthly filing, especially for VAT, for withholding tax, for PAYE. And of course, if you are a registered company, for company income tax as well. So here are the summary of the obligations for February 2026. We have told you of PAYE remittance, which is 10th of February of this month. Then we have told you of withholding tax, which is 21st of this month, or 30th if it is to unincorporated entities. And of course, we have told you about VAT, which must be done on or before 21st of this month. So then the annual return filing for PAYE for organization must be remitted on or before 7th of February. The first deadline was 31st of January, but another grace has been given. So it is important that you do all this filing to avoid penalties. It is very important. Then quickly we move on to the statutory remittance and compliances for payroll. So if you are an organization, you are deducting from your employees. So we have some deductions and then the remittances that you must ensure. The first one is your PAYE, which is very important to the State Internal Revenue Service. And then we have another one. So if you are dealing with contractors, with suppliers, with professionals, for professional fees, of course for contract, for dividend, for rent, you must do withholding tax and you must remit to either State Internal Revenue Service or Federal Inland or Nigerian Revenue Service, which is their new name. Then we have other statutory payroll link contribution, which is not tax in nature, right? For example, we have pension. Pension is a future contribution for employees working in a paid employment. Of course, if you are not working in a paid employment as well, you can also do pension, voluntary contribution, right? And of course, we have 8 and 10%. The employee contribute 8% of their earnings, and the employers contribute 10%, and they remit to the appropriate pension fund administrators. This is very important, right? So contributions are usually due within 7 working days after salary payment. So for example, you have paid salary on or before 31st of January. So of course, 7 days, on or before 7 days, you must remit your pension. Then we have National Housing Fund. As the name implies, is for housing, right? So to provide housing for maybe employees that will qualify to get it from the Nigerian mortgage, housing, authorities. So employers and employees contribute 2.5% of monthly salary, and they must remit to the federal housing authorities. So it is usually due within the month following after payment has been made. So when you have made payment, when you have deducted, of course, the month following, right, between the second week, you must remit, right? Then we have National Health Insurance Scheme. This is like health, contribution for your staff, NHIS. So employers contributing on behalf of employees should remit via the HMOs soon after payroll. So it is typically done by the 10th of the following month. That's for the NHIS, for the employees' health maintenance. It is very important. So we also have Industrial Training Fund, ITF. So employers with 5 or more employees contribute 1% of annual payroll. Employers with 5 or more employees. So if you have 5 or more employees, you contribute 1% of your annual payroll. The annual ITF returns covering the preceding year are often due by 28th of February 2026, with payments by 1st of April 2026 in many cases. So if you have deducted for your ITF in 2025, you must remit on or before 28th of February or the first day of April 2026. And this is very important. So we also have National Social Insurance Trust Fund. National Social Insurance Trust Fund, we call it NSITF. So employers pay employee compensation scheme on a monthly or annual basis. So if annually, of course, if monthly, due by the last day of the month. So if you deduct on a monthly basis, you must remit on the following month, before the last day of the following month. So February obligation for January payroll fall in February, so it is remitted on or before the end of the following month for the NSITF. So in summary, for all these statutory obligations and remittances, for PAYE, pay on or before 10th of the following month, which is this month of February. For withholding tax, you must remit on or before 21st or 30th of the following month if it is to the State Internal Revenue Service. So for pension, you must remit 7th of the following month after you have deducted from January. Then for NHF, which is the housing fund, you must remit within mid of this February, right? For NHIS, you must remit on the 10th of this February 2026, right? From NSITF, you must remit by end of this February, which is very important. For ITF, you must remit on the 28th of February 2026, right? So these are the very important statutory and tax obligations that every organization must comply with in this year 2026, which is for February. So failure to comply, there are heavier penalties, just like we've said. So in order to avoid all these penalties, just like the story we told you before we begin this live streaming, it will be more heavier penalty, because if the new tax law have now increased the threshold from 25 million for small companies to 100 million, then of course more penalties have now been increased. The penalties have now been increased, right? The interest rates for failing to comply have now been increased. The compliances are now more stricter for organizations that fails to comply. So in order to avoid all these pressures and issues, penalties, paying interest, tax authority having to slam you with heavy penalties, in order to avoid it, you must ensure that you comply with all these tax obligations, statutory obligations from your payroll, and remit as at when due. We help organizations to ensure all these remittances as at when due, from taxes to the statutory remittances from your payroll. We can serve as your compliance consultant for your payrolls, for your taxes. We are tax consultants, so we ensure that organizations comply and remit all their taxes at when due. So you can feel free to reach out to us. You have all our emails on this our YouTube channel. Our WhatsApp contact is there, so feel free to reach out to us. Let's support you in your business journey. Let's ensure that you are doing the right thing in your business. And of course, for year 2025, company income tax, which is already on. So you must file even if you are within the threshold not to file. Of course, for 2025, it is not 100 million, it is still 25 million because we are working based on the last tax law, right? It is from this 2026 that the 100 million threshold will now be applied. But for 2025, it is still 25 million and below for small. So please feel free to reach out to us. We can serve as your tax consultant, as your external auditor, as your financial consultant, business consultant, management consultant, compliance consultant for all your statutory remittances and every other thing that your businesses need to stay clean, to stay compliant, and to clean the right thing to avoid issues with the regulatory authorities. You can feel free to reach out to us, and you can share our YouTube channel as well to businesses that need all this information. So as we are bringing you all these statutory compliances for you to be aware and stay compliant, we'll also be ensuring that we're also bringing you some other information, news. Of course, we always ensure that we bring you up-to-date business news to see how it affects your business, how you can take advantage of all this information, all this news in 2026 to scale and position your business. So definitely we are your business growth support partner, and if you're on this YouTube channel, you will agree with us that you are getting value on all this information we are bringing to you. So we have so many of our videos. Yesterday we brought video to Nigeria in the diasporas. We know we have some people that are connected to Nigeria in the diaspora. You can share the video with them. It is on our YouTube channel. We have for cash flow, we have for CAC, for business growth, for everything, right, that surrounds your business, how you can scale and grow your business. All the videos are on our YouTube channel. And as a professional, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, this is your channel. This is the right place for you to be, and you can watch all our videos, right, and apply all the information, practical information that we are dishing out to you. And if you need us in any way, feel free to reach out to us. I'll be willing and ready to work with you. So until we come your way in another live streaming, of course, we are coming back for the business news updates so that you can see how it affects your business. For investments, if you want to invest, we are not just telling you about tax, where you can invest in, where your money is safe, right? If you are a risk taker, you can choose your investment appetites, anywhere you can invest, right? So if you are not a risk taker, there are investments for you. If you are a low income earner, there are investments for you. So everybody have his own place, right, to work with. And we've said it over time on this YouTube channel that you build wealth, right, consistently and patiently, and will always be there for you in your business journey, in every aspect of your career, right? Just feel free to reach out to us. So until we come your way, in another, live streaming shortly, please stay connected on this YouTube channel. So thank you and bye for now.